Thanks everyone for joining. I'll start by introducing our two lovely speakers today, Amy and Mark. So I'm sure a lot of us know Amy. Amy is a visionary behind the Forward Group, a growth consulting firm specialized in high impact advisory, strategic planning, and fractional CMO services for indie female founded brands. Serving as strategic advisor and fractional CMO, Amy leverages her small business expertise in marketing to craft innovative and results-driven strategies to attract more customers, expand market reach, and drive revenue growth. Hi, Amy.
Hi, you made me sound so important. I love it.
You are so important, and I'm really excited to announce Mark as well. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Jake. Thank you.
Yes, Mark is the founder and managing director of Desert and Bloom Cosmetics Lab, which focuses on the development of new skincare products in the science-based, high-performance, clean, sustainable market segment for indie beauty brands, dermatologists, and beauty entrepreneurs.
That's a mouthful.
You know what? Because you guys are just so the multi-hyphenate people who just like kind of do it all. So, I mean, I had to make it as short as possible today.
Okay.
Well, I'll kick it off with an opening question, and whoever wants to jump in first, feel free. But the opening question is going to be, who is truly driving beauty innovation? Consumers, brands, science, or something else altogether?
Amy, you want to take a crack at that, or you?
Yeah, I can start. So,
okay.
I think it's really a synergistic relationship among all of them. So the way that I view it is, consumers are demanding. Consumers' demands are inspiring brands to innovate, and brands are then investing into R&D to meet and anticipate these demands. And then you have science that's advancing to make sure they can fulfill the brand's PD pipeline, so product development pipeline. So I think all of this said, I think all of this is being fueled by just the world we live in today. This is my short answer, by the way.
Okay.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think exactly the same thing, that it's actually coming from both directions and kind of converging in the middle of product development.
Yeah.
So you've got consumers who are seeking solutions to problems that they have, driving companies to try and develop those solutions. And then on the other side of the equation, kind of really unrelated to that, or is just the pure science. People developing ingredients and then testing those ingredients for efficacy. And as a product developer, you basically look both directions. What do the consumers want? What are they demanding? What are their problems? How can I solve it? And then on the other side, you look at, okay, what are the tools available to address those issues? And ideally you merge those two perspectives of science and consumer demand to come up with some really great products.
I love that. And Mark, talking about consumer demand, you actually led me to my first question for Amy today, which is about consumer demand. So Amy, why has consumer demand for science-backed and clinically proven products evolved, and what can brands do?
Okay, so I'm going to try to keep this short, just so we keep everyone's attention.
That's all of it. Yeah.
I know. Spill all of it.
Yes.
So it's no surprise. We live in the instant information era, which has led to the instant gratification mindset, which we're all guilty of. Listen, we all love Amazon. We all love, things coming immediately. But this has completely reshaped consumers' expectations. So they don't want just results. They want them now. They want them fast. So we really saw this heighten after the pandemic because consumers started approaching skincare like healthcare. This is also why we saw a rise in prescriptions like Trentinoin. I think secondly, consumers are becoming just increasingly smart and savvy. They trust the science, not the marketing. They're becoming ad fatigued. And I think that stems from just years of misleading clean and natural beauty claims, amongst other things. And now they want to see the clinical studies. They want to hear the medical endorsements. They don't want the buzzwords. So for beauty, all of this really translates to providing clinically proven high performance products that not only deliver these instant results, but are backed by science and are validated by the experts. There's so many things a brand can do, and hopefully we'll get into more of them later. But just for time's sake, I think the most important suggestion that I always try to give to my clients is invest in clinical trials. I think Mark would also agree with me on that. They're expensive, but they're absolutely vital in how your product will be received and purchased. So XYZ product is hydrating. Okay, but how does the consumer really know that? They don't. With clinical trials, you can make the claim that that same product that's hydrating is clinically proven to retain moisture 67% in 4 weeks, whatever it is. And that's really powerful for a consumer, and it immediately increases the brand's chance of making a sale.
I think statistics matter. You know what I mean? Especially when you're looking at buying a new product and something that, you're putting on your skin. And of course, your skin being, I guess, what is it, the largest organ of your body? I mean, it has to be such an important thing, and you really want to know what you're putting on there. So that's why people like Mark are so important to formulating these and, helping brands create the best products. So Mark, what are the most innovative ingredients and formulations emerging in beauty right now, would you say?
I would say primarily on the peptides and growth factors area. There's a company called Evolve by Nature that's got some really great ingredients that I've been working with. And, to Amy's point, they've got the evidence. They're proving out their ingredient efficacy. There's a company out of France that has Povita and Porphyria, and it's core biogenesis, which are growth factors encapsulated in an oleosome. So it's kind of a combination of a growth factor and a delivery technology all in one ingredient. So those are a couple of ingredients that I'm very excited to be working with. There's another ingredient, Sereni Biome, that we'll be addressing later in the discussion. It's kind of in a neurocosmetic category, but what it does is selectively acts on Staphylococcus aureus on the skin biome to keep it in check. And a lot of times when that Staph aureus becomes out of balance with the rest of the skin biome, it can result in some disease states, skin disease states. So those are the kinds of things that I've been focusing on most recently.
That's awesome. I mean, I just have to say, Mark, you just sound so smart when you're talking about it. That's all I have to say. I mean, as like the moderator here, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like,
yeah, but I've got chat AI running on the side.
I love it. Well, talking about complex scientific advancements, it can be really difficult to relay that to your target audiences. So that's why people like Amy are so important also in the beauty industry, trying to get that message across to the consumer. So Amy, my next question to you is, how can beauty brands effectively communicate complex scientific advancements to consumers without overwhelming them? Because you don't want to see it's the latest, the greatest, the this, the that. It's like, I want it to be right to the point on the packaging and your messaging, and I want to know what it does for me. So how can brands do that?
Yeah, what you're talking about is the superlatives. That's what we call it, like the best, the most, the greatest. So I'm the queen of a checklist, as many people who know me well know. So of course I have a checklist that I use for my clients with more advanced scientific products. And right at the top, the first one is simplify the messaging. So we know that science sells, but too much overwhelms the consumer. So if it's too complex, the consumer, they're not even going to try to figure it out. They're gone. So I always say, like, break down those difficult concepts into very clear and digestible language. Also use data visuals. This helps to show the consumers how the products actually work and then benefit them. So infographics, videos, animations. I just saw an amazing animation before this webinar from a creative agency out in LA. It was to show, it was basically diving into like this capsule, and it was just an incredible animation on the science behind it. I think you could even use trial stats, clinical trial stats, before and after photos. All of this helps to like demystify the science basically, and the complexity around it. Another one would be to personalize the communication. So I'm a big proponent of interactive quizzes on e-commerce because it allows you to educate throughout the experience. And fun fact, it's actually proven that people tend to remember information when it's presented in this personalized format because it's tied to themselves now. Think about it. When you're taking a quiz, it's usually about your preferences, who you are.
For sure.
So if they're getting this information, they're obviously going to take it to heart and they're going to remember it more because it's about them now. I also say lean into blogs, webinars, tutorials, anything again that allows you to dive deep into the science. Not only helps the consumer understand, but positions the brand as an authority. And I think lastly, which this is one of my other top ones, is collaborate with the experts. So collaborate with the dermatologist, the Marks of the world, or just Mark himself, other medical professionals to explain the formulations. They're the trusted sources for consumers now. So they will help validate those claims and help gain trust of the consumers.
I love that. And I think what you said about quizzes it's just so important too, because like you said, it personalizes the information. And yeah, like maybe the consumer, me, can be a little self-centered when they're looking for things. And when you make it about me, I'll remember it, but it is so important. It's so true. I mean, I've done it for my own skincare, taking quizzes, and I bought the routine that it told me. And I mean, I feel like it's working. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about my skin
You look
today.
great, Jake. You know what though? It also helps you collect, and Mark touched on this a little bit, but it also helps you collect that zero-party data straight from the consumer to then help you better formulate products in your PD pipeline because you know what they're looking for. And let's say you want to even take it one step further and you want to create personalized products. Well, if you present that to somebody like Mark, they're going to be able to help you do that. Otherwise, they're not if you don't have this information. So it's multifaceted, I think, when it comes to marketing, but also product dev.
For sure. Like if 80% of the people, are getting matched with a specific product or they have this specific skin issue, like what other products can you put in to expand that, your product line? Yes. So I think that's brilliant, Amy. And that's why you're the CMO here. Mark, my second question for you is on regenerative aesthetics. So it's a growing category. Can you break down what's new in skin repair, longevity, and biotech beauty? And I also know you have a couple slides that I'm going to pull up for you.
Yes.
Well,
yeah. The whole concept of regenerative aesthetics is basically that you use the body's own healing mechanism to have a better effect on the appearance of the skin. So the most common part of regenerative aesthetics is that most people will be familiar with is microneedling. Microneedling, goes into the epidermis, maybe a little bit into the dermis, but primarily the epidermis, and it creates damage, just like when you cut yourself. But this is very, very mild, and what that does is stimulate an immune response, so that your body tries to heal that induced damage. And that can stimulate collagen production, elastin production to reinforce the extracellular matrix. So you basically are through the damage building collagen and elastin, which of course is going to make your skin appear, more taut, tighter, better skin appearance. So what was part 2 of that, Jake?
Part 2 of that was about skin repair, longevity, and biotech beauty. So those 3 kind of in general there.
Yeah. The skin repair, there are a variety of ingredients that get into wound healing. one of them I'm involved with is snail mucin. That turns out to be an excellent product for stimulating wound repair. Another one is actually a project that I'm working on, a proprietary project that I'm working on using a blueberry extract. And again, the animal studies were conducted. This is coming out of a university, but the blueberry extract from a particular species shows some excellent results in stimulating wound healing. You also have a wound healing grade of hyaluronic acid. So all of these things can be brought to bear as over-the-counter products for wound healing, but also for post-procedure application. So and even during the procedure. So if you can envision, and Amy and I have a client in common who's involved in this, you create a solution that contains, let's say, the blueberry extract and some snail mucin and other ingredients, and create a pod, which she has, and that pod then affixes to a microneedling device, and you're driving those ingredients into the lower epidermis and perhaps even into the dermis, where they can interact with the cells and stimulate, again, wound healing like effects, which are basically collagen and elastin formation. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And then when you combine some of the biotech ingredients that I talked about earlier, again, these can go into those solutions, and you can use them for microneedling. If someone has an ablative laser or even a dermabrasion, these can be applied post-procedure to help with the healing and stimulate collagen and elastin formation. So good anti-aging approach.
And I think I just want to make like a note. I think also, like, Mark, you made a good point where we're seeing this convergence of like natural ingredients with biotech. And this is why there's this term clinical or clean clinical that's coming out now. And I think that's what we're really going to see take off. Now, it's nothing new. Me and you, obviously, as industry insiders, we know that this has been happening for years now. But I think from a consumer standpoint, they're starting to pick it up, and they're starting to demand that they want that. They want the clinical, but they don't want the chemicals.
Correct. Yes. And that's where the biotech type ingredients like from core biogenesis become very important, because they fit into the natural category and they are very effective. So it's best of both worlds. When you're talking about plant extracts, you chew up an enormous amount of biomass to create those plant extracts. And a lot of them really just don't do anything because they're so dilute. Whereas with the biotech production, they're able to really help you control the dosing. Exactly every time you purchase the ingredient what you're getting. You don't have variability like you do with really pure biomass that's collected. So that's really, over the past couple of years, there have been an enormous number of new products available to cosmetic chemists like I haven't seen before. I mean, just an explosion over these past couple of years of those products being available and to go to market. So, a lot of new toolkits, and they're very effective. So we're at the beginning stages of, you're going to see what I call a renaissance period in skincare, in terms of new product development. There's very exciting stuff coming down the pipe.
I'm excited as a consumer. I mean, You know, like it sounds awesome. Like, I mean, the clean products and stuff like that work well for someone like myself who has eczema, which is really great.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it could be something that's a little more clinical when I get a breakout or something, but doesn't, make my skin burn or, make my skin feel like it's on fire, would be really awesome. So, I mean, I'm excited for the products that are coming down the pipeline you guys are talking about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit coming to market for eczema, Jake, and most of them are silk peptides. They're derived from silk, and the nice thing about them is they're upcycled. So they'll take the kind of the husk from silk production, use that as a raw material to create these silk peptides, and I'm working with a couple of them right now for eczema that show some really, really great results.
I'm excited. Well, if you need someone to try them out, let me know. If you need anyone to try them out, you tell me. I got it all over my hands.
Will do.
But my last two questions for you guys actually leads into neurocosmetics. So I'm going to bounce it back over to Amy here. Amy, with the rise of neurocosmetics and sensorial beauty, how do emotions and psychology impact purchasing decisions?
This is such a big topic, even outside neurocosmetics and sensorial beauty. So in marketing, we call these psychological drivers. By understanding the consumer at the deepest level, we as marketers can develop marketing strategies that will then create an emotional connection with the consumer and ultimately influence their decision to purchase. With neurocosmetics and sensorial beauty, they're doing part of the work for us because they're already tapping into that connection between the body, emotions, senses, etc. So the question is, how do they do that? And then how does that translate into sales, essentially, I think is what you're asking.
Yeah.
So the first is that they evoke emotions. So positive emotions, whether that's joy, relaxation, confidence, they're creating these memorable experiences that the consumer wants to come back for. And I think this is specifically the case in neurocosmetics, where they provide the aesthetic benefits as well as the wellness benefits, like stress relief and mood enhancement that I know Mark will talk more about. These types of products also invoke nostalgia sometimes, which has been a really big trend lately because consumers are finding comfort in the familiar, and it typically evokes a positive memory of the past. And we've been living in a very tumultuous world the last 5 years. And so people are really gravitating towards nostalgia in a lot of different ways. We see this with fragrance, but we also see it with skincare. So think like the moisturizer your mother or grandmother used to use, La Mer, Pond's, Olay. They're kind of, I kind of think of them when I think of this, but it's also packaging that looks or feels like the past. It could be a pattern, it could be a design, it could be a color palette. And I think lastly, they're basically appealing to the senses, which makes the product more appealing. So we're seeing this a lot right now in cosmetics, so makeup products. So think cherry flavored lip glosses being paired with like red juicy cherries. So it's basically using food to trigger a taste and texture response. And all of this basically just leads to heightened brand loyalty and repeat purchases because the core and deep emotional connection that the consumer has with the product and the brand stems from the emotions that you evoked prior with these products, whether that was stress, reduction, or remembering your grandma who passed, or making your mouth water because you saw that cherry.
It's funny that you say nostalgia too, because like you said, the last 5 years have been really up and down. And, I think a lot of people have experienced a lot of changes during and post COVID. So it's like that kind of escape, or it's like you said, the nostalgia to the good old days, a lot of people will say, or like a certain time period. And also to your point, like the relaxation of it, because, even like media. Like media is constantly bombarding you with like, here's the worst thing that happened in the world today, you know? And like, as someone who works in PR, it's like so hard to break through that noise because it's just been this like, you know, here's this, you know, like this week, here's a plane that flipped over and blah, blah, blah. And like this stuff. And it's like, you know, there's something as small as skincare or a mask someone could do on a plane that can relax them, you know, and almost calm their anxiety and get them kind of back into this relaxation zone of like, I'm going to my favorite place or I'm going to this destination. I think that's a really interesting point there with the neurocosmetics. And I'll bounce it back over to Mark too. So when I hear neurocosmetics, I guess for the first time, it can kind of seem like a buzzword. So what does science actually say, and how do skincare and brain chemistry intersect? And I'm going to pull your slides back up for the neurocosmetics portion.
Okay, sure. Neurocosmetics is kind of a new field that emerged in the early 2000s. And it's all about that skin brain connection. So your skin is basically your outer sensory organ that interacts completely with the environment, and it sends signals back to the brain. This is hot, this is cold, this feels good, I like this texture, etc. So neurocosmetics is basically the science of trying to find ingredients that will invoke a response in the skin cells. So a lot of people will jump to the skin brain connection and think it's activating at the brain level, but really the ingredients that are used in neurocosmetics are a localized effect. So when you talk about emotion and relief, etc. So I'll take the simplest example of a neurocosmetic that's been around forever is menthol. Whenever you apply menthol cream to your skin, what it does is tricks the brain into focusing on the evaporation of the menthol and the cooling effect of the menthol evaporating off of your skin. It doesn't alleviate the pain at all. It's just a temporary trick of the brain, but you do experience relief, right? You're no longer focusing on the pain. There are more advanced neurocosmetic ingredients that have proven to actually have an effect on the skin cells. And what they'll do is interact with the nerve endings and cause those skin cells to localize on a localized level, to excrete some of the feel-good chemicals. So endorphins, for instance, reduction of cortisol, etc., a variety of reactions like that. And that can relieve an itch, for instance. So you're going to feel better if that itch is gone. If you have irritation or inflammation, again, you're going to feel better if you just don't have to deal with it. Then when you combine those with the sensory type effects that Amy was talking about, so the scent of the product evoking a memory, a comforting memory or something of that nature, the texture of the product, again, can evoke a feeling of comfort, relaxation, etc. So it's a combination of your sensory reactions that really don't do anything at the cellular level for the problem that you're trying to address, but on an emotional level, they have a positive impact. This scent reminds me of my grandmother or whatever the case may be, as Amy was saying. So you're trying to basically work both angles. So using scent, using sensory, using the neurocosmetic ingredients that have a localized effect, you induce that total feeling of well-being.
I love that. And I mean, too, there's so much on this screen. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we could probably talk about neurocosmetics for days. It's a new term to me, as a consumer. So before I move on to our closing final question, do either of you want to touch anything else on neurocosmetics before
one thing I'll go back to, Jake, is the Serenity biome. which selectively works on Staph aureus, reducing the Staph aureus, or bringing it back into balance with the rest of the microbiome. That's a very good example of the relief that you get from not having to deal with an atopic dermatitis issue because of an overpopulation of Staph aureus. And then if you use, create the right texture, the right scent, you have a product that's really does exactly what it's advertising to do and can be very effective for consumers.
Awesome. I love this. I love learning about this with you guys too on this call. So I have one final question for you guys, and feel free to, jump over one another to answer it first, or just, civilly pick whoever's gonna go. Just kidding. But the final question for you guys is, with so much jargon, like clinically proven, medical grade, these buzzwords we were saying earlier, the superlatives, how can brands separate real science from marketing buzzwords?
I can go first. I think the biggest thing is focusing on the results, not the buzzwords. So obviously, the consumers are conditioned by these buzzwords. And what I mean by that is when they're searching for products, or they're investigating, researching products, they're going to be looking for these buzzwords. So as a marketer, you have to have these words added into backends, think like SEO for like your e-commerce or Amazon, things like that. I have clients that use medical grade and clinically proven, and it's completely fine. I advocate for it. That's what the consumer is looking for. We have to be able to pop up and, in these search engines. But I just say, make sure you have that data and the results to actually back up what you're saying. Because these terms, medical grade, clinically proven, as Mark will probably touch on too, they're not FDA backed. There's no, it's like natural. There's no actual FDA explanation or definition of what that means. So if you're going to use it as a brand, I just say, do your due diligence, show the before and afters, highlight your proven ingredients and or proprietary complexes and the clinical trials that prove that they work, partner with medical experts that can help validate the claims. And I think above all, be transparent. Share information about where you're getting the ingredients from and your sourcing and your testing methods, because even though consumers are leaning very heavily into the science, they still want to know, where does this all come from? And if this is reliable data, and best believe they're going to fact check you.
Always. They're always going to do their research, which is why PR is important. I'm going to chime in there. That's why PR is important. I'll say my piece there. Mark, anything to add to that as well?
No, I reiterate, what Amy's saying. The data is the most important thing whenever you're making these claims. You have to be able to back it up, substantiate your claims. Consumers are a lot smarter now than they were 5 years ago, and they can easily decipher between the marketing language and the marketing lingo and what's actual factual information. So they're looking for the actual factual information. And I think brands can no longer hide behind, hyaluronic acid absorbs 1,000 times its weight in water. Everybody makes that claim. Okay, great. But what does that actually do on my skin? And prove it. So that is, I think, becoming kind of the new standard, is having the data to present to the consumers that you've got evidence that your product does what you're claiming it does. A lot of even dermatologist approved, that doesn't really mean anything. That means that someone conducted an HRIP study and a dermatologist signed off on it. So what is that? It's kind of a meaningless term. If it's combined with the data that here's the dermatologist we work with, he endorses the product, and here's the data, or even a CRO. It doesn't have to be an individual dermatologist, but you've got a third party validating the test results, conducting the test and validating the test results. Now consumers have something they really can, grab onto. And at that point, they try the product. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a particular brand that you're using right now, Jake, and you're happy with the results.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you were attracted to that brand because of this clinical type data.
I mean, I will tell you, I'm the kind of person that just peruses the aisles at Target, and that's what I was doing. But I had heard of it from like an influencer, so it was like a third party validation. But I looked at the ingredients, and I actually knew what the ingredients were that I was looking at, and it was like no more than maybe like 10 to 15 things,
Yes, and that segues actually nicely into another discussion, part of the discussion, and that is skin minimalism. So if you want to delve into that now,
let's do it.
Skin minimalism has two components, and you just touched on one of them. One component is how many ingredients are in a product. And my general rule of thumb, because I formulate in a very skin minimalist approach, I only look for the ingredients that are going to help solve the problem or provide the benefit, and I exclude everything else. I don't put anything in there that does not need to be in the product to make the product effective. So there you're getting into, and my general rule of thumb on that is if the product has more than 15 ingredients, start questioning, start looking somewhere else, because a lot of products are formulated with filler ingredients or label ingredients, and the reason that's done is to support a marketing story. But let's take a plant extract. Your typical plant extract, when you add it into a formula, you have effectively 0.008% extract in there. So there's not enough in there to do anything of any significance, but it supports that marketing story. So with skin minimalism, you be careful with the list of ingredients. Try to keep it to 15 or less, maybe 20 or less. But if you see a list of ingredients with 30, 40 ingredients, that's all supporting a marketing story, or somebody doesn't know what they're doing in terms of formulating the product. So, the other component of skin minimalism is only use the products that you need to achieve your skincare goals. So, kind of the basic suite of products. You need a cleanser, right? You need a moisturizer or a barrier repair cream. You might want to use some kind of anti-aging or well-aging oil or a serum or something of that nature, and a sunscreen. So that's kind of your basic suite. Now, if you have skin conditions that require other products outside of that, you have acne, you have melasma, you're concerned about the tone of your skin, well, then, you add another couple of products to it. So keep the number of products to a minimum that you need to achieve your skincare goals. Keep the number of ingredients in those products to a minimum so that if you know something about the ingredients, that they're only effective ingredients in that product or in the products that you're using. And that's basically the whole approach of skin minimalism. So you'll see on the other slide ingredients to look for. And these are, gold standard, proven ingredients. They've been used for many, many years, so they're going to work. And these are the types of ingredients that you should focus on in selecting your skincare products.
And I think from a marketing standpoint, for skin minimalism, consumers, again, just like they're ad fatigued, they're product fatigued. They're so tired of having to buy and upkeep 15 products in their cabinet. They don't have the time or maybe even the financial resources to have these extensive multi-step skincare. And at the end of the day, when you really start, like Mark said, when you're getting into these extensive multi-step skincare routines, how good are they really for your skin? Probably not that good, right? Because you really only should be using fewer high quality products on your skin. Now, I will say something I don't think Mark touched on is that I think the fewer high quality products should be ones that offer multiple benefits. So, and Mark can obviously talk more about this than me because I'm not into cosmetics or formulations. But I think from a consumer standpoint, like I said, you know, it's the practicality, it's the cost effectiveness. Consumers want streamlined routines. They want that optimized health benefit. They want those noticeable results right away. And they don't want to have to, you know, pack and follow a 15-step skincare routine.
Right.
Like people are on the go, the world we're living in, people are traveling. That's just too much, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it's true. I mean, I think to your point, Mark, like this particular brand that I picked, it literally lays out the routine on the side.
Yes.
And it's a 4 to 5 step thing. If you need all of the products, I only use 4. I don't use their sunscreen. I bought into the Supergoop, whatever, probably didn't need it, but I bought into it. You know what I mean? So it's like, as a consumer myself looking for skincare, I totally agree with you. I couldn't agree more on this clean.
Yeah. Amy touched on an important point there, and that is if you do some research on ingredients, look for multifunctional ingredients. These are going to be ingredients that will perform more than one function on the skin. Sorry about that. And that allows you to get the performance using fewer ingredients in a formulation. And then the whole idea there is to use these multifunctional ingredients in combinations that reinforce one another. So, for instance, if you're trying to build up native collagen or elastin production, you know, you can look for niacinamide, look for tripeptide 29. You know, those are kind of the key building blocks that stimulate the cells to produce natively. That takes more in-depth research, but it's worth the while if you can, because you really narrow down the number of products, the number of ingredients. On average, the average person puts 125 to 135 chemicals on their skin every day. And now you're getting into issues of cross-reactivity between ingredients from different products, you know, so you really want to try and keep it nice and clean and as simple as possible, and look for the products that are going to achieve your particular objectives.
I also think it helps. You touched on something that was really important that I didn't actually, I forgot to mention. So I appreciate that, is that having a smaller assortment of products for a brand, it actually allows that brand, which typically tend to be indie brands, to market better and actually grow faster. So what I mean by that is there's a lot of indie brands that come across my desk who are like, yeah, you know, I have this really aggressive PD pipeline plan. You know, we're going to launch 3 products a year for the next 5 years. And I'm like, okay, but do you have the marketing dollars to market all of these products? Like, who are going to buy all these products that you're spending so much money to not only produce, but then hold inventory in? And there are some brands that are like, I do not want anything to do with D2C, direct to consumer. I just want to go right into retail. And retailers want that. They want to see, you know, these big built out product lines and extensions of product lines, et cetera. We've all seen that. A lot of the beauty conglomerates do this. Amore Pacific is one of the top ones. They have a million different arms. But when it comes to indie brands, they don't usually have the financial resources or the manpower to actually market and sell these products. So what happens is you have all of this overhead in inventory and no one to buy it. And then you become in a really, you put yourself in a pickle, essentially, because your business is going to be losing money. And so I always tell my indie brands, start small. Launch with that one product. It's fine. And if you want to, if you want to build it out to 5 in the next 5 years, do that. That's okay. And I think what we're seeing is that the consumers are saying, yeah, we're okay with that too, because all of this choice is overwhelming us. And we don't want it anymore.
Yeah. I also think it's very important for indie brands in particular to niche.
Yes.
The more you niche, the easier it is to find your consumer, find your buyer. So I particularly like things like, if you're going to launch a brand, focus on baby care, focus on acne, focus on whatever makes sense for your brand. What concern are you trying to address? And try and become the best in class for that particular concern. That really helps you narrow down who are my consumers, where do I find them, how do I market to them. It's very tough to just be a general, an indie brand that addresses the general public.
Yeah.
We have a moisturizer, we have the cleanser, we have this. You really want to try and niche it down the best you can.
In marketing, we say you can't be everything to everyone. And it's the same with product dev.
I was going to say, jack of all trades, master of none applies to brands too.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's the exact same concept. Yeah. And I think that's why, when I was telling people, we're going to be doing this webinar, and it's all about like consumer shifts and the science. And people are like, I don't get how that aligns. And in the last 50 minutes we've been on this webinar, I think people hopefully will know how important it is and how much of alignment it really does have. So I don't know, with that said, Jake, should we wrap it up?
I'm totally good wrapping it up. Yeah, we can wrap it up a little early. I'm going to put Amy and Mark's emails and LinkedIn links in the chat if you guys are able to see it. We can also add it to the LinkedIn live, I guess, like post that we made as well. You can kind of drop it in the comments there, but also, connect with any of them on LinkedIn if you guys have any questions, regarding marketing, product development, all these sorts of different things here, because they're the best. That's why we're on this webinar. So thank you guys for doing this. I found it really informative as someone who doesn't know a lot about, skincare and beauty, and is just a consumer of the industry myself. But before I let everyone go, I guess, do we have any final closing statements? Anything else you want to share? Or do you feel like we got everything we wanted to say out?
One thing I'd like to discuss, and this is a very important new development in cosmetic science over the past couple of years, is cellular senescence, because that really gets at the core root of aging. And if you envision these senescent cells, they go into a state of suspended animation. They're called zombie cells. However, they're not completely inert and not completely inactive. They don't die. They don't undergo apoptosis. They don't do anything other than sit there and excrete cytokines, inflammatory cytokines. And they induce adjacent cells to go into a zombie senescent state. And that's really how aging all starts. And there's a lot of research being done on that right now. But if you think of a product or suite of products, combining neurocosmetics, addressing the skin biome, addressing cellular senescence, this is really, kind of the future of cosmetics you're going to see over the next couple of years. So that's one thing I wanted to mention on that.
I love it. I'm excited for it to come on the pipeline. I want to stop my wrinkles that are already coming in and my aging and whatnot. I look in the mirror, I have one thick line right across my forehead. So I don't know. If that can fix that, maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Jake, the key is when your eyebrows start growing. It's a signal from nature that it's time for you to stop. Okay.
That's
Well, how old are you,
hilarious.
Jake?
I'm 23, actually.
You're 23.
I am. I know. I
Okay,
present much
well,
older. I hopefully in a mature way.
He's
not
a baby.
You've got until you're 40 for your hair to start growing, your eyebrows and on your ears, and then you'll know you're aging.
Once I get the nose hair sticking out too, I mean, that's the thing. I just gotta make sure it's not my mustache hair. I gotta make
Yeah.
sure I can tell the difference between the two.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Mark. Thank you, Jake. I hope
Thank
this
you.
was super informative. Like Jake said, we will make sure to drop the link for anyone to rewatch this. If they came in late, I'll be sending it out in my newsletter as well. If you want to be on that, feel free to email me. And we'll also be doing, I think, a recap on LinkedIn. I think all three of us will be doing a LinkedIn post. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn. All right.
Thank you.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed. Thank you.